They look heavy, but
Great, now that we're all here, it appears the recording has begun. And welcome to this special Lisle Township meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll have a roll call vote. Clerk Public, please.
Sure, Supervisor Hewitt,
Here.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes, here.
Trustee Page. Here. Trustee Gus.
Present. Thank you, and then we'll do a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then, is there any in-person public comment? Okay, and then we only have, well, Ross is online. Thank you for joining us, Ross. And I'm sure you don't have any public comment. So, and then the online public comment, I'm just refreshing that, and that is at nothing. So we have discussed the public comment at this point. Okay, then discussion and possible action on food pantry operations. And so to begin this discussion, I know that we are internally preparing for Jordan to tomorrow night give a presentation to the public at our meeting, at the start of the meeting, and he's going to be there. Right now on Tuesdays, as you can see, we'll go through his schedule. He needs to be running to get the van, it was in the shop, and then going to Jewel. Or sorry, his first stop is Walmart. And so he has a list of stops that he's going to be going to today to make sure that things are adequately stocked in the food pantry for tomorrow's distribution. As you know, he's written, and Gerald has written a letter describing the changes that they're wishing to make with regards to the timing of the food pantry hours and the modernization of the food pantry in particular. And so one of the things that we're working on is that those announcements of how they can be done. So one of the pieces that Jordan has really specifically focused on is the modernization of the food pantry. We were donated Pantry Soft software, which makes the purchase of this from the township not necessary.
Who donated it?
A generous donor.
Who is the donor?
Me.
Is that is it required that it be kept secret?
No,
But then who is the donor?
me. I personally, out of my own personal funds, donated it to improve the capabilities in our specific needs. It can be done for a modest investment, and we, at the beginning of this week, we were at a 4,000. The wonderful thing is that after figuring out that we don't need to buy a computer, there was a computer that we can repurpose for the food pantry. So there doesn't need to be any $1,000 purchase of a computer, which is very helpful that we had the extra capacity already in place. We also have a
Can we
computer.
pause for a second? First,
Yeah.
I want to thank you. That was really generous of you to do that, but we didn't agree to the software purchase because there's an ongoing support and expense that we have not approved.
So that's okay, because that's a different, there's not a contract in for the entire first year, it's already been paid for.
And excuse me, point of order, I don't use that much, but this is not the right agenda. The agenda started with creation of
Right, I
the
wanted to.
township.
First thing I noticed,
This is not the right agenda.
there is
That
not
was
even a line
issued.
item for the creation of the food pantry committee.
This is not what I sent in. This is not,
Can we print the correct one?
I'm trying to look for it now.
Yeah, because I was like, wait, where's the formation?
And that's how it started.
So now so here's the challenge with that, Supervisor Hewitt, is that it's paid for this first year, but it puts an unnecessary pressure on the next year on the board to make that decision to continue it, and the expense of that when the decision wasn't even made to implement it. And it should have came back to the board and offered, if the software was paid for or donated, would we want to move forward with it and then accept the future expenses, but you didn't give us that opportunity.
So this
you
is, that's not
begrudgingly-
possible
You
to,
went, but you went
to-
against the board's decision and then didn't even give us
I
the
did not.
opportunity.
No, I did
You
not.
said no.
here's the thing is that you all chose not to decide for months on end. And our modernization of the food pantry was completely halted by that
No,
issue.
It was.
And
It
so,
wasn't. It wasn't
yes, we
at all.
needed the software in order to
But
have,
you have a board
every
of
piece-
trustees for a reason, Supervisor.
yes,
Hewitt.
we do.
And you didn't, you went against what the board decided. You didn't even give us the opportunity of saying, hey, guys, I want to sponsor this. And this is what it will look like. This is what it will look like. And this is how we'll take care of the future of support and expense. You didn't even give us that opportunity. And this is one of the challenges that we continue to have.
So I think that here's the, again, there is not a requirement to have the board approve donations for software from anything. And the reality is that you can only make a year commitment at the very most at any point. So next year, there's going to be a choice of who pays for that at that point. And that's going to be a different item of discussion, but it's not
But
the
you
item
put us
of
in a
discussion.
position,
Exactly.
it's the position that we've been put in after we specifically said we did not want to incur that ongoing expense right now.
So it isn't an ongoing expense
Okay.
that is
It
being
the
decided
particular,
other
please.
than, again, at a decision of what software are we going to begin with? And any time that we have a notice of payment, then that does go before the board. But there is no
fair enough.
requirement
Let's move
to, again, pay for anything with the software.
Could I ask you where the agenda, the true agenda is that I sent to you? When you send me the nasty email saying with the on
Oh,
it,
God, I love
and then
that.
I said, please, please keep reading because it's been changed to a special meeting. And then there was an agenda on there. And it started out with the creation of the township pantry. So this is, and it,
That was the whole purpose of this meeting.
Okay. Okay, so I apologize for missing number 5. I went through and literally
Could we-
copied and pasted that,
could
so
we
I'll
print
print
that?
that out, and the only thing that is missing is number 5, so we're gonna go back to number 5. And that's printing right now. Okay, discussion and possible action on a resolution to create a food pantry committee. We don't have any resolutions. Is there a resolution to again be printed?
We're gonna vote on making, approving, and then the attorney, that's why the attorney's here, so we can do create the resolution for us. Right.
So in
So we did
order,
before, first we have to approve it.
no, actually, first we see a resolution. There's usually a resolution
That's
that's
not how we did it
discussed.
when we formed the personnel committee or the budget committee. We voted to approve it and then a resolution was presented after.
Okay, Ross, you are the attorney. And so normally we have a that we would be looking at, that
Did
we
you
would
have
be
that for the budget and
discussing.
the personnel committee?
And again, we are,
So, so in general, first, like, for example, for the prior committees, there is a resolution that establishes the finance committee, which is good because we know what that entails. The problem with the personnel committee, for example, is that there is nothing that, that establishes it. So there is no resolution or otherwise that I'm aware of. And we've been working separately I've been working with Trustee Page to, remedy that and clarify all that. If the board wants, my recommendation, if the board wants to create a committee, they can discuss and approve certain aspects of it, and then I'd be happy to write up a resolution that gets approved late, at either a special or in the next regular meeting. Because it is something that you should have the written document ready, even if you make amendments on the day of, you want the written resolution ready to be approved. That's, when it's on the agenda, that's what,
Okay, so in the past it was done differently, so if you had advised us of that, we would have had the resolution created
Well,
before the.
that's why I was asking about needing a resolution. I asked you, so that's.
We needed to, because of our past committees, I thought we had to vote and form the committee before we did the resolution, so that's why. So probably.
And
We know what we're doing now, so I have a hard stop of 9 o'clock, so I wanna keep moving. So then do we need to make a motion to create the food pantry committee then?
I would say perhaps move to direct me to create a resolution establishing it. And if you want, maybe establishing other committees or just like add me ability to create ad hoc committees. And if you vote on like what the scope is, what you want it to do, or I can just, I've done these types of committees before. So if you want me to, I'll just vote to direct me to prepare a resolution.
Okay,
Creating
so
it.
to make a motion to vote that Attorney Seckler to form the food pantry committee.
I'll second.
Sorry, what were we gonna say?
So again, we need to, trustee Geist is making the motion to. And we're clarifying that the food pantry committee is to do what?
We will handle that with Attorney Seckler when he creates the resolution, correct, Attorney Seckler?
Aren't we doing that? right
That's fine. If you
We're gonna
wanna,
discuss-
if you
Yeah.
want to establish parameters now, that's fine. If you want to do that just
think
as
that
part of the
was-
resolution process, either way,
I think
either
it's
way.
gonna-
Guys, can
I
you
think
please
that's gonna
allow
stem
the,
from the
trustee
conversation
Geist, can you
that we're
please
gonna have.
allow the attorney to
I'm
finish?
clarifying for him.
So you're
Yeah.
interrupting him.
Well, no, I'm
So-
answering his question.
Actually, you're not,
So-
you're interrupting him.
Attorney Seckler,
Attorney
Your
Seckler.
answer-
Yeah, yeah.
your answer to your question is, as far as the terms and the guidelines will be based on the items that we discussed today. So is that fair? So we will discuss what will be the parameters once we understand what's happening with the food pantry. Is that fair?
Yeah, yes. And then if you need changes after the fact, just,
Perfect.
and then before the next board meeting that this would appear on the agenda, then,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and Attorney Seckler, we're just trying to make sure that we're clearly getting your advice. And
Mhm.
so your advice then in this motion is to simply create this committee and then we're going to decide in the next, through edits of the resolution, it sounds like, and at the next regular board meeting, what exactly this would entail. Is that correct?
So the motion, I think the appropriate motion would be you move to approve the creation of a food pantry committee and direct the township attorney to prepare the required resolution or ordinance to establish that committee.
Do you want me to do I redo it then?
Could I?
Yeah, so moved. Just say so moved.
I was just gonna add.
Clerk Polowitz has something to add.
And then Clerk Polowitz?
Okay, I was just gonna ask, did you want a separate motion or do you want to add in there about who's the chair within that?
Do a second.
Okay,
That would probably be all part of the establishing ordinance resolution, who selects the chair, who, that, all those kind of things.
Okay, thank you. So if trustee Geist says so moved after this, then we can go from that motion, what you just said, verbatim, and then trustee Page can second that. Is that correct, Attorney Seckler?
Yeah, and to clarify, just for minutes and record, it'd be the motion to approve the creation of a food pantry committee for Lisle Township and directing the township attorney to prepare the requisite resolution or ordinance establishing same and providing the parameters and scope
could I ask
of that committee.
one other question that is, I don't know if you have time to do this, but is this something that could be handled tomorrow in old business then?
Unfortunately, no, because the agenda is already, we'd have to have it, this is something that would need to be listed on the agenda. And because it's less than 48 hours for the regular meeting.
Old business, because we've asked for this formation in the past.
It is not.
Because if for Open Meetings Act purposes, it would need to be listed on the agenda itself. I guess because it's already on this agenda, it's as a resolution, you could, you could continue it to tomorrow, but it's still, that's a little dicey because you're voting, you have to vote on something, so. And to
Now,
put it
my
in,
question is, if they discuss the parameters of it, we give you a punch sheet of what was decided, and then it's put together, it really is a matter of signing it. Or do you, because you're saying creating the food pantry committee and directing the attorney to prepare the ordinance. So it needs one more vote onto it, even though
Right.
it'll be everything we discussed today that we want on the form.
it's still, it should, because it is going to, because then you're approving what, you know, based not just creating it, but you're approving like the rules, right? You're approving, and not the rules isn't the best term, it's more what the parameters are, what this thing means, what's it gonna do, what's its powers are, what's our, you know, it's kind of defining what this is, similar to, I think, what the finance committee currently has on, at least on the website.
Thank you so much. I have a hard stop of like 9 o'clock, so we've just spent 10 minutes deciding, you know, if we could vote on this, and I think the answer is clear. So if we could move forward with seconding the motion.
I second.
Okay, and we're just finishing the discussion to clarify and make sure that
No,
we're doing this
you're
legally.
talking in
Thank
circles.
you.
The attorney's already clarified for us.
And
Supervisor.
no,
Let's move
It
forward.
was not clear.
He
At all.
clarified it
So
for
thank
us.
you, trustee guys. Okay, then we have finished the discussion, a roll call vote,
Okay,
clerk Polwitz.
trustee Geis.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
No. Okay, then is there anything more with with agenda item number 5? Of discussion and possible action on a resolution to create a food pantry committee? Great, then that has been passed. Agenda item 6 is discussion and possible action on food pantry operations. And again, the director of the food pantry is out getting food. And he is planning a presentation for tomorrow night for the operations and how they're being planned to be modernized and changed, as well as the current explanation of where we're at. And so is there any other particular questions
Yes,
that
there's
are
lots
not
of
being
different-
addressed by
Yes. So
Gordon?
So,
Judd.
operations manager, Wolf sent an email, I guess it's been like 2 weeks now, week and a half ago. Making suggestions about some of the changes that would like to be made in the food pantry. And I very adamantly was opposed to making those changes until we first sorted out, where was the real problem? Because right now I feel like by changing the hours, we're putting a Band-Aid on an open, on a wound that needs stitches. And by that, I mean, we are serving people beyond the perimeters of Lisle Township, which is kind, but it's not responsible to the taxpayers of the township. And so my suggestion is, until we change the hours of operation, why don't we first look at making sure we're meeting the needs of our actual township people? Because we keep saying we're running out of food. We're running out of food possibly because we have people coming from other cities and other communities utilizing the service. But that's one of the reasons why, before you make any change, let's make sure we're first serving just our community to find out if changing hours is even necessary. Or changing pickups is even necessary. We may have enough for the people of this township if we stop serving the people outside of this township. And I made a great recommendation. I thought it was a good idea to put together like a mini kit that has a couple of non-perishable essentials in a box that we could give to a non-township person with resources in their own community that they should go to. I think if we first find out, are we actually just serving our own community? Then find out where the problems are, then look at solutions for making changes. So that was, and so we had a really great conversation about that. And yet I'm learning that we're still pressing forward full speed ahead we're putting the cart before the horse.
No, we're not.
Yes,
But-
and we've done this repeatedly.
Actually, we're
We've
not.
done this.
And so, from a time
We've
limit
done this
perspective,
repeatedly, and I actually wasn't done. And we've
We-
done this repeatedly in other situations,
actually,
and it's just smart. It's just smart. Right now, if the township taxpayers knew how many people we were serving outside this community with their tax dollars, I think they would be really upset. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to run the food pantry. I don't want to manage the food pantry. I want to be a supportive resource. We're out talking to people in the community. Our ears are to the ground, much like your ears are to the ground to the people who are coming here. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing in the pantry is actually meeting the needs of the people of this township first. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and I don't know that there needs to be further discussion on this, because your modernization of the food pantry is gonna be in a presentation tomorrow night. Will that modernization include, that it's gonna include client registration, since you so generously donated software, correct? So yes or no, it's just yes or no.
Yes,
So we can move right through this. And then the non-residency emergency kit, have we made any steps to consider putting something like that together?
We
Yes.
considered it, yes.
You've considered it. So you've considered it? Yes.
So we
Which is
haven't-
it?
We haven't, no, the answer to the question is yes, but we haven't established what exactly will go into those boxes or bags, nor where will we get those boxes and bags from, nor how many people it will be that we would have to prepare for. So we haven't stepped into that.
I'm just thinking recycled boxes that just have like maybe a couple cans of soup, maybe some rice, maybe some, just non-perishable things that would sustain someone while they go to their own resource. So it doesn't have to be a big project. I think it's just something really small. It's courteous, it's kind, so we're still being kind to people, but we're also setting boundaries as to who we're gonna serve in this township, right? So is that something that you think will be, we could be enacting sooner than later, or what are your thoughts on that?
so October 30th is when all of,
Could he, because you're responsible for the food pantry, so you
My,
can speak to
my,
it.
my take on it is this. We can prepare bags for people who are not here, who are not residents, who come to our food pantry. There seems to be a lot of them,
Right,
so it would have to be, we would have to get prepared for that. So we would have to prepare for those ahead of time. So
mhm,
when they come and they show me their ID, right now, they're not even showing ID.
mhm,
It's just coming in, filling out the list,
right,
whatever, and this is where the modernization will come to help us filter out those
Sure.
people who should be here and those people who shouldn't be here. As a matter of fact, we should also, because this is a confusing point for me, we should also determine who are we going to accept in our food pantry. Is it just Lisle Township residents?
yes.
Or is it DuPage County residents? Because there's different, I've heard different things as to who can come to our food.
Well,
pantry.
we've not said no to anyone,
No, we want. we
but,
haven't.
but
But
Lisle
if-
Township
but we're
should
gonna
serve
start
Lisle
saying-
Township.
We're going to start saying no. So we'll have to start to say no to people who are not Lisle Township, but they live in DuPage County. I mean, that's kind of,
Well, our taxpayers for Lisle Township serve Lisle Township, so DuPage County is a very large territory, and we would be in the same situation, right? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the taxpayers who are paying into the township, their tax dollars should be used responsibly, and it should only be to support Lisle Township residents.
okay, that's fine. I have never gotten that direction.
No, but where is, right, but that's why we're in the situation where we have deficits and empty shelves, because we're giving food to everyone.
trustee
Right, and
guys,
I
I
have-
think there is, again, a misunderstanding of what we have been doing, and I think it's really important that again, we have some time limits and we've been going continuously. So when it comes to addressing the needs of figuring out
Where was
and
there a
how-
time limit not honored? He was
meaning that
explaining to
for
me.
each different, for
It's off.
frankly, for in our rules in the board packet,
But I
within a
didn't speak for
3-minute.
3 minutes. He
You
was speaking.
Definitely been speaking for more than 3 minutes,
I
trustee
asked
guys.
him
I've
questions. I
rolled
did
the
not speak 3
time like
minutes.
over and over
Turn
again.
the clock on. I didn't speak
I've
3 minutes.
Had the clock on over and over again. It's been literally on the camera over and over. again.
Speak for 3 minutes straight.
So, yes, actually,
No.
it's
you
been,
know,
it's been,
you and
it's
Mrs.
been a
off.
continuous,
So you're
like, again, yes, I do realize this.
Okay.
So, and I'm trying to explain to trustee guys where we're at here in the board rules.
Supervisor Hewitt, I'm aware of the board rules. I asked Mr. Wolf a question and he answered. I did not speak for 3 minutes when he was answering questions.
So here's the thing is that actually in the rules, we don't have that where like it goes like this and like that. That's not actually a part of
I
generally.
can't ask him questions that are gonna
No, we
speak to what
can.
my
I'm just
questions
simply
here.
saying that we're
I
trying
just don't
to,
want you to answer the question because he's responsible for the food pantry. I want his words, I want his answers. He should be empowered as the leader to do so. So if I'm
Definitely
looking at him
he
and
is.
asking him a question, and you're interrupting, really, you're out of order, Supervisor Hewitt.
Trustee Geist, no, you're the one that's frankly badgering our
Do you feel
operations
badgered?
manager. And
I know that's a
frankly,
tough
we're trying
question to
to
answer.
make sure that we're being respectful of all the employees
Do you
and,
feel like I'm
and
being
what have you not.
disrespectful?
So again, when
Okay.
it comes to,
So he doesn't feel disrespected, so probably you shouldn't project your feelings onto this employee.
so
So I
you're
just was
raising
asking
your
questions,
voice.
I'm not
and
raising
part
my, I
of-
project my voice.
So
And talking
it
like
is,
this doesn't make it less,
So
Raising
less
your
offensive when
voice.
you talk to
just to
people.
clarify, it is, you'd like, if someone from out of the township comes in, you would like them to receive an emergency kit with
Can of
food.
soup, some
Do
rice,
not, do not turn someone away the first
thank
time.
you.
But with that, you would probably be offering them assistance to let them know where is their food pantry, are their resources. So the next time they can go to their food
That's
pantry.
all I'm asking.
so currently, right now, for example, there is a list of all the food pantries that are local. And so when we come, right now, when somebody comes that is not from here, we give them the list of all the food pantries that are closer if we think that they're not from
So
here.
to finish, then the
And-
second time they come, then if they're signing in and you see, hey, you've been here, we've given you the emergency kit, we've told you where you are, that would be the time to say, is
No.
this a dire emergency? I mean, you're not gonna not give them, a box of cereal, but you're gonna have to say, you really, that's it, you have to go to your
Well,
own.
you know what, I think what we're talking about goes hand in hand with what we're calling the modernization. Because with software, we can determine, once we register our clients, we can determine who's who and who belongs here and who doesn't. Right now, we can't determine that because all it is a manual script. And they can put any address down there, any city or whatever. I don't know every street in Lisle. They could do 123 Main Street in Lisle, and I say, oh, you live in Lisle, okay, you can come.
They
and
can't
use
do that with the
food pantry.
software?
With the
No.
software, no, they're pre-registered. So the software will have them pre-register with their IDs. And now, when they come in, we have a system that says, okay, you're legit, come on. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, let me talk to you over here on the side. We can give you a box, but you need to go to this food pantry. As
Okay.
a matter of fact, here's a list of other food pantries.
So-
And that's what we're trying to establish.
Right,
And
And the
we've
software
got
will help
kind of
you.
we got kind of like a soft semicircle of it, but we just need to bring it all together.
Mhm.
It all goes hand in hand. Like we can't turn people away without knowing who they are,
Well,
right?
but what happens the second time, like Clerk Hollowitz was asking?
Well, the system will highlight, right? The system will say, okay, you've already been here this week, or you've already been here and we told you, but you're not registered. So if you're
And
not.
they
a
don't come with an
registered
ID,
user,
what do you tell them?
If you're not, you have to have an ID.
Okay.
We're gonna issue a little RAF card that we can scan. And they have to have it in order to get in. And I
Perfect.
worked 6 years with another food
Perfect.
pantry in Palatine and it worked just fine. Now, it really was, in the beginning, it was a laborious effort to kind of filter everybody.
Sure,
But once everybody got accustomed to the system,
yeah,
then they knew they had to come in with their card or
Yeah.
if they wanted to get served.
okay,
And I think we can do the same thing, but I think what we're trying to accomplish here is, like I said, kind of soft semi-circle dotted line, but we just need to solidify them.
this all could have been done with a Google form, which is what I kept recommending, but it's
No, I
fine.
couldn't.
I-
Not at all.
So I love what you're sharing, thank you for explaining that to me, I'm very appreciative. I really think putting these little boxes or bags together, Joel can give us bags, we can use recycled boxes and just have 10 kits always ready to go and just keep it moving, because. Again, looking at coming up with solutions to make sure that we're meeting our needs, but we're basically coming up with solutions that are meeting the needs of everyone outside of the township, and that's not what we should be doing, it's not responsible for our taxpayers. Also wasn't 3 minutes, so thank you.
So that looks like items 6, 7, and 8.
Right.
I'm just trying to stay.
Yes and no, because we're looking at changing the schedule. We're
I didn't-
looking at changing the schedule of hours.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's on 9, I think, so that's. I
Oh,
just wanna-
sorry, yeah.
No, I just want to make sure we're tracking against the
Yeah.
agenda, sensitive to your schedule.
So in changing, again, the food pantry hours, the main reason for making sure that we can have the time for the staff to get the deliveries, if you can see where they're getting their deliveries in their time. They have to go to Addison most of the time, almost every morning, Glendale Heights. We cannot choose where we go in this. We can only say yes or no to where the Northern Food Pantry gives us the options. So if the Northern Food Pantry does not give us the options, we cannot like go outside and just lobby for our own purposes.
Where are their deliveries? I don't see that on here.
So their deliveries are here. There's two ways that we can get Northern Illinois food. Either one, they come to our facility twice a month. We're trying to get it to 4 times a month. And then we go to their facility for dock pickup at least every other week. And we try to go.
So
Where is that on the
to add
schedule?
that, I have to add that, we don't have that on the schedule because it's never set. They determine when they're gonna make us a delivery.
So it's
We
not
always ask
consistent,
for,
right.
it's not consistent because it just depends on their volume or what they're doing. Sometimes they'll say they'll be here at 8 o'clock, they're here at 6:45. Sometimes they say they're gonna be here at 8 o'clock, they're gonna come till 10. So it's kind of like, we don't really know exactly, they dictate to us.
Right.
When we make the order, we pick a time that we want, if it's available, we pick a that's available to us, and that's where we do, and it's haphazard all day.
Like,
But it's
is it
always
within
in the
hours?
morning. It's always in the morning, though, it's never in the afternoon. Only the dock pickups are in the afternoon, the walk the dock where they have surplus,
Yeah.
and we can go and pick from that, and we do take advantage of that in the afternoon.
Let me ask you a question. That day that I was here and you had that huge load, was that one of their deliveries?
That was
So
one
that's
of
what
their
it looks like?
deliveries,
And so that goes to, the volunteer registration, for example, so is there, there was not enough people here to help unload that day.
Yeah, it's hard to, I'll tell you the truth. On delivery days, it just seems like if we get a big, huge delivery, it seems like it's never enough, but we always seem to get it done.
You do, yeah, but
And
it's still a lot.
It's just how much effort you have to put forth to get it in and get it on the shelf so you can get it distributed. We
Is-
are working very hard trying to secure volunteers and trying to schedule them, but it's a volunteer thing. People can easily say, yeah, I'm gonna come on Friday, or I'm gonna come on this day, and then next you know, they don't show up, and we have no repercussion for it.
Is it harder to both take in food at the same time, which is what we do in the mornings, and have the distribution going at the
That's the
exact same?
hardest thing, because you have clients shopping the deliveries
Right,
as it sits out on the bay for us to bring it in. And it really is, it's kind of nerve wracking, because you gotta kind of police it to keep the people off of it. And then as soon as you bring it in, they want it, they want it, they want it. Even when you have people who have done shopping,
Mhm.
and they bring their carts back, now, oh, I need to shop again, because you didn't have that when I was in here.
Mhm.
And that wasn't available to me. And it's just we would rather get it all in and have it in so that it's there. And that's kind of what I see the goal as being, at least. I mean, Jordan could probably be more clear about it, but he wants everything inside the pantry first. Then we can distribute. And that's kind of where the modernization and the changing of the time really makes the biggest difference.
because in this modernization process, from an inventory perspective, if we cannot catalog what is going in and what is going out, we're never gonna be able to inventory it. And be able to have a sense of what we actually are using. So part of the modernization is that we'll be able to process anything that's being able to come in. We'll be able to process anything that's going out. So we'll know exactly what people are wanting. We'll know the rate that they want, tuna fish versus peanut butter versus what have you not, because we'll have the data to take that in. We could not do that if we were doing that all at the exact same time.
So it seems odd to me that whoever the donor is doesn't have a tracking of what they've given you, and they can just give you that sheet that could go
Oh,
right.
we have a list of what they give us.
So
We
here's my
always have to
question.
sign The manifest.
They know what they're giving you because they have to track that. So that couldn't be emailed ahead of time and someone could be data entering that in even before it even gets here.
So the reality,
Wait.
Well, yeah, that's true. We have a sheet, the person who delivers it, we sign off on the sheet. But the question is, we don't know how quickly it goes out. We could have 10 cases of jelly, for example, and we only distribute 2.
Gerald, how much of our food is it that we actually buy? Is the majority of our food the stuff that we rescue from the clients that there is no annotation of what we're getting. So is the majority of food voluntarily given, which we're not paying for with no receipts? Is that correct?
Yeah, but he said that there has to be a manifest of what they're donating, because they have to
But
track
hold
it.
on, let me kind of get to the point of that, because the way our donations go, they don't put a monetary value on there. They don't put 10 cans of tuna, 5 cans of beans. They literally say one box, if it's beans, let's just say it's 50 pounds. So they'll do it by weight. And so that's how we do it. That's how we receive our shit from Direct Connect, and not necessarily from Northern Illinois Food Bank, but definitely from Direct Connect, which is where we get the majority of our food. Direct Connect is that schedule that you have in front of you. Those are the
It would be I think it wouldn't hurt to ask them if they're tracking what they give you and ask for that sheet. Because they have to explain where that food went.
We
and
know.
They can't say.
We
they
know,
can't say
we've
50
literally
pounds.
picked this up, Autumn, trustee
You
guys, we
just
have
said-
literally picked this
You
up
just said it's by
from,
pounds.
no,
You said it's
again,
by
if,
pounds.
can you
Yes or
bring
no?
in, Gerald, can you please bring in a sheet, because it's gonna be easier if they see what we're talking about,
Well, let me just
because
finish my thought.
there's no way that it has been tracked,
Let me
literally.
finish this thought.
other
So
than
if someone
Google
makes a
Estimates.
donation, they have to explain where that donation went. They can't just say 50 pounds of beans, you know what I mean?
Yes, they can, it's not even beans, it's 50 pounds of produce.
They'll just call it canned goods or produce.
Okay.
It's a generic label on it. Like, for
Okay.
example, we could get a box with bread, grown-up diapers, potato chips.
In one box.
Something in one
got it.
box, and they just call it a mixed
Yeah,
box.
yeah.
And a
Okay.
mixed box is 25 pounds.
Okay,
And that's how they inventory it. Now, departmentally, at these places where we pick up from, I'm pretty sure the department heads
Correct.
are saying, okay, I'm writing this off.
correct.
as a
That's what I'm
donation,
asking
This
about.
off as a donation.
Yes.
They don't share that information.
Okay.
That is not information that we get.
But it hadn't been tracked, but I understand what you're saying. Okay.
There's.
So, but do you see so our concern about the hour changes is, which I expressed to you in our conversation, is there are people who work second shift, right? So, if they can't come here in the morning and go to work, how does that look for them?
Okay, so when you say they can't come here in the morning and have.
If you change the hours,
Okay, so changing the hours, particularly on Wednesday where we go 3 to 7. It's half of one and half a dozen of one and 6 of the other. Because you're gonna have people who can come in the morning
right?
and then have to go to work, but then and then they can't utilize the evening
True.
hour.
Yeah.
But there are people who have to go to work in the evening and they can't utilize the morning hours.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's equal on both sides of it.
Okay,
So we just have to see what's going to fit and what's going to work for us.
yeah,
And right now, the morning thing, those people who come in the morning can also come around the noon time. Because they're generally those individuals who are not working, who are at home or wherever they are, and they have the flexibility and time to come to the food pantry.
so my concern is we make a change to try it out, right? And then, that doesn't get communicated to everyone. And then they come on a time that it's not available. Like, how will you manage that so that people who are working so hard to possibly get here, maybe they get a ride or, whatever, like because change like this is big. And anytime you implement change, not like some of the other changes where chaos was created from it. You have to have a plan in place of who are the players, who's gonna be impacted, what is your backward pass plan, how are you gonna manage that, right? So those are important things, and that's why I'm reticent for you to make changes until we know who our actual audience is that we're really serving and what their actual needs are.
And so have you been highlighting this? Have you been highlighting these changes for the last few weeks? And if we go out with this public plan, then the people that have been coming for the last few weeks will have the opportunity to know. And is there ever a time if somebody comes here that they're turned away? Like if we're not serving distribution on a Tuesday and somebody comes and they're hungry, would we ever turn them away? So part of this is understanding our current policy is
Many
not to
times,
turn people
okay,
away.
I'll answer your questions in reverse order. Many times people have come here and the pantry is not open, and we've given them that quote unquote box, which is, I'm very familiar with that. Because we just don't want them to leave hungry, they're looking for something.
Right.
We've got I feel like it's our responsibility to do something about it. Whether or not they live in our township or not, we still do that. What happens is when you're talking about, I lost my chain of thought about, what was your first question?
It has to be hours.
Okay, the hours.
Yeah.
The scheduled hour changes are gonna be, like I said, it's six of one and half a dozen of another. I really do believe that it's probably not gonna make a significant difference to our clientele. However, we have been making a conscious effort to put the information out there because you mentioned, okay, some people may not get the message. We can put it on the website, we can put it on Facebook, we post it on the walls, we tell people word of mouth verbally. Invariably, there's gonna be somebody who doesn't get the message because there's somebody.
Who's responsible for posting?
For what?
Who's responsible for posting
Well,
that?
Michelle posts on Facebook, and I think it's Diane who posts on. the
Is
web,
that-
Or is it vice versa?
So Michelle didn't get the vaccine clinic posted? We can talk about that tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead. Okay, so this is, I understand what you're saying, six one half to the other. Again, I'm just gonna revert back to my primary point is, I think we need to understand who we're serving. So if the software is gonna do that, great. So maybe implementing the software, understanding who our audience is, what their needs are before you make changes. Could you consider that? Like, let's fix the problem first. And then see what the problem, let's fix that problem first, and then see where the need really exists. You may find that everyone's loves evening. Right? I mean, you could actually do a survey. They may love evening. Everyone says, I'll come afterward. And then that shifts everything for you. I don't know. But we're paying people hourly to be here for that, right?
If I had my dithers,
Yeah.
I would change the hours first, then implement the software.
Tell me, could you help me to understand
And
why?
only because the concept of getting all the food into the building
Mhm.
is a huge concept for us, because now we know what we have. We know just what's going on. If we need to scramble and make an emergency or whatever, that's it. We don't have people sitting around, milling around, waiting to see which truck is gonna come in to bring it in. We've got everything in. So now everybody has the choices of everything that we're gonna get for that distribution period. And there's nothing else is coming in. There's nobody sitting around waiting and watching the truck unload and then, trying to grab the fruit and grab the boxes as it comes into the building.
Right,
That's nerve wracking.
I'm sure, and it probably causes a lot of,
It chaos, it
yeah.
does, because, Miss Jones does it, now Miss Brown wants to do it because you got her son, and then now Miss Green wants to do it because Miss Brown got it. Got some and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It's just so chaotic to try to have the distribution the same time as you're receiving your inventory.
I don't
It's
know if
just-
that's
it's just-
speaking to my question, though. My question is implementing the software, getting everyone registered, beginning to weed out who really isn't a resident, and then figuring out what is gonna be the best plan to suit their needs. That's what I'm saying. That's a little different.
We could-
I hear what you're saying, though.
Yeah,
I got you.
it could happen that way. I mean, we could do it that way first, right? You put the software in, but get people registered, still have the day-to-day operations. But I think, like I said, if it were me, I would rather change the hours first. And because it's the part of the delivery and the distribution at the
Okay.
same time that makes it.
I hear you. I think there's an argument either way. Sorry, go ahead, Beryl.
Well, I was gonna say, we have talked before about extending the evening hours too, right? So I think that's important to create that opportunity, because we don't have that right now, right?
Mhm.
So if we're gonna, I think that's your Wednesday proposal,
Right,
right?
that's the most
Yeah.
difficult.
I think that gets us a broader coverage of
Correct.
people who you talk about.
I agree with
in the
that.
morning, so
Yeah,
I think that part goes forward. I understand exactly what you're saying. I've been here once and I have seen, it wasn't actually a busy day, so I haven't seen it when it's crazy. In terms of food coming in and people coming in to grab things and people coming back in again, I haven't seen all that interaction.
Well, what happens is they take their carts out,
Right.
their trucks up, they bring their carts back. Oh, I want that cake,
uh,
as a matter of fact, I had made a rule in the food pantry, there's no re-shopping. Once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
I had to make that rule because it's just annoying to me that they do it that way.
Gerald, is there a preponderance to rely on Sunday help? So meaning that what happens on Friday, part of the issue with what's happening with our inventory issues that y'all kind of need to understand is what happens on Friday is we're generally cleaned out. And then how do we stack up for Monday?
Well, right now, we don't, because if the supervisor doesn't make pickups at Amazon, which is the only Sunday pickup. What we start Monday morning distribution with is what we have remaining from Friday
mhm.
and what we could have gotten into the building by 8:30 on Mondays.
That goes back to my
And you
point.
go right from the truck to the table, out the door.
That goes back to my point though. We're getting wiped out because we're not serving just our community. We won't know until we know, right? So also, I think that's great that Supervisor Hewitt does pickups, but I don't think previous supervisors have done food pantry runs. So I'm not sure why that's happening. So maybe that can be part of what we look at as food pantry, to figure out if there's a better way for that to be happening. But that-
Again,
but
it's
that
with
goes
our
back-
hours, that's why it's happening.
That
It's
goes back, but
because
that does go
we
back
need
to my
to-
point of, you're getting wiped out, but you don't know if you're getting wiped out by our actual township residents.
That's true. And I think that's a big part of it, but culling the stuff that's no good anymore is also part of it. You know, taking the expiration date on things and taking it off the shelf and getting rid of it, that's another part of it. It's part of the whole cycle. It's like a cycle of things that you have to go through in that food pantry. Because trust me, those clients are taking the dates and they're looking at that celery and if it's wilted in any way, they're not gonna choose it. And if the philosophy that we carry in the food pantry is,
Right.
and I tell the Stephen to the volunteers, if you're not gonna get it, then don't give it to anybody else.
But I think it still goes back to, we may not be, yes, you wanna get rid of the food. But that's not the problem. The problem is, we are having empty shelves because people are taking food who are not township residents.
Okay, so actually, the problem is supply and demand. Okay, that's the literal problem. And in order to
There may
manage,
not be a supply
supply-
demand
there
problem
is
if you
a sup-
stop serving
Again,
residents outside of the township.
and so part of the thing
Take the
that we're
money.
working on is the registration process that is going to very clearly enunciate whether you live in the township. And so please look at this draft
I will. Thank you.
document. We're
Yeah.
going through it with the staff today, going through another draft edit of this today.
Okay,
Please let us know any more input, but this will allow us to determine and have the time to determine whether the person lives in Lisle Township. And so they'll get a card that, just like going to the gym, that we now have the really good technology that Google doesn't allow us to do, to just scan the card. And then it'll let us know that the person has not been there this week. It'll let us know that they live in the township.
sure.
It'll help us understand what they want,
Just
and it'll help
straight.
us really better serve the clients.
Okay,
And so the customers that come through here in the township. So again, we're deciding on, and there will be a decision as to what boxes or what planned ideas of what we need to have planned for people that don't live in this area. Right now, we don't even have that for people that do live in this area. So
yeah,
we
Mr.
would
Wolf,
need to have this enunciated as
Yeah.
something that is what we're, again, trying
I
to
got you.
move towards.
Yeah,
So,
we got 10 minutes. Mr. Wolf, just a real quick question for you. What conversations have you had with the previous food pantry operation, the food pantry, Charlie Biggins, for example? What conversations have you had with him to find out what were some of the problems he had and how he addressed them? Are we having the same problems? Are we having different problems? Has there been some changeover with lack of information flow? I mean, because obviously this ran pretty smoothly in the past. I don't think they had empty shelves, right?
Yes, they did.
One of the things.
We always had empty shelves.
one of
Okay,
the
go ahead.
things
Thank you.
that I learned from Charlie is that he did a lot of things on his own.
Okay,
And.
because he was so used to it probably.
Well, he did a lot on his own and there really wasn't much communication as to what he was doing, but he was just getting it done. For example, the Sundays, he would run the Sundays on his own. And hell, nobody even really knew there was a Sunday until we didn't pick it up and they called and yelled at us.
Interesting.
So, I don't even know.
This is what
if
happens
people
when we have
really-
changeover, right? We lose some
Well,
knowledge.
oh yeah, absolutely. And so, but I don't know.
Did he write
When
down the routes for you?
No, he didn't. I did
Okay.
that myself. Although I did run a route with him. And I wrote down what we did. That's how we came up with that.
Perfect.
And it's been.
Okay, so
modified.
good. You had some.
So, and, he was just, I don't know, he just wasn't, I don't want to say anything disparaging about the guy, because he really didn't do anything disparagingly to me. I thought we had a great relationship. He just wasn't, he was just hard about whatever he was hard about, meaning he was not happy. So, whatever that was.
Well, we're moving forward.
Yeah, moving
We're
forward.
past that.
Okay.
We're
So-
aware.
No,
So-
I just wanted to know what information we had, because in the conversations I've had with previous staff, it seems like there just was some things that were not connecting. So I'm just trying to figure out, and that's really the goal of food pantry too, for a committee, is to be a support, not to run it, but to be a support, to be an advisory, and to figure out how we can help. Like, for example, the last thing I wanted to really cover was the volunteer registration policy and scheduling. And I know when someone's a volunteer, you really don't have, like you said, there's no repercussion if they don't show up. But if you have an abundance of volunteers and you have people who are on standby, it's better to have more than less, because it's easier to send people home than to do a call out, right? So is this new software, does it manage volunteer schedules?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, there's two things I want to say about that first. First of all, just the last point about Mr. Biggins. He answered the questions that I asked, but he did not offer.
It's okay.
So that's the fine thing. So, but if I asked a question, he would answer them in earnest. Okay, now, in terms of the scheduling of the volunteers and having extra volunteers, we have learned that the volunteer group that we have would prefer the afternoons as opposed to first thing in the morning. The 12 o'clock starts are much better for them
Good.
than the 8 o'clock starts.
okay.
Sorry,
That's good to
sensitive,
know.
sensitive to time. One thing I want to make sure, rethinking, we're gonna have to recast the budget. You know, I want to try to understand if this is gonna be part of the charter of the food pantry as well as what's our relationship with Friends of Lisle? Do we have a relationship with West Suburban? Do we need budget to buy food? Like, and do we need an extra halftime person in the food pantry? Like, what are these changes gonna impact budgets for the next 6 months?
Okay, I've always believed we needed an extra, at least an extra half person in the food pantry, even before all of this even came about. Our relationship with Friends of Lisle is they cover the Northern Illinois Food Bank purchases that our grants don't cover. So if our grant covers it, then that's fine. If the grant is run out or dissolved or spent, then they cover the cost of it. We have never come out of our own pockets to buy food for the food pantry, from what I understand. We don't even have a budget for food pantry food.
But could we
Everything.
use it is part of what
Could
he's
we use it?
asking.
Oh, absolutely, we could use it. But the question is, I would not. Having said that, I'm sorry, I get too talkative, but having said that, I would rather somebody else purchase the food for us who has more experience, like Northern Food Bank, like West Suburban or somebody. Give them that money to purchase for us and then let them purchase for us, because not only can they purchase better, but they could probably get better discounts, wholesale. We could probably get more for our buck than just going retail to Jewel Osco, yada, yada.
That's the
and
purpose of
spending that
asking people to donate to Friends of Lisle instead of bringing food here, giving them dollars, because they can get more with that dollar.
Right.
So I totally agree with that point.
So
And I
it's
think the
Friends for
pantry-
Lisle Township. Just
Friends
to-
for Lisle, yep, Friends for Lisle
money. Oh, I
Township.
thought it was Friends of.
Sorry, so I corrected that too on my notes. So I think that's really important, Trustee Robinson, and I think that the food pantry committee really should be reaching out and building relationships. We should be very community focused so that we're helping to support those initiatives and making sure we understand, so that as we're out in the community talking to people about the resources available to them, we're giving them good information. So we can't operate in a silo of just, you guys know what's happening and you know how it works. We have to understand too, and that's part of that's why I wanted to be, have this committee. So, and again, last thing, and I hope everybody understands, once we understand who we're really serving, the supply and demand may not be as big of an issue as we believe. Because if 7% of our recipients are not from Lisle Township, we may find out we don't have as big a problem as we.
I am
thought.
sure
Yeah,
that
don't know
it's
yet.
not that. And on a side note, just legally, I know Autumn Trustee Geis has to leave shortly, but on agenda item 5, Attorney Steckler, I just want to make sure that we understand what is legally possible to be doing in the food pantry operations.
What?
Meaning that, for example, is it up to food pantry director, Jordan Tukes and operation manager, Wolf, as to what the hours of the food pantry are?
Well, so ultimately, those determinations will be, implemented by the staff with whose job it is to do that. It would be the committee and this board's job to set overall policy goals, do advising and, give certain directions based on that feedback. But as it's been discussed, it wouldn't be the committee's role or job, and it shouldn't be doing this to do any to be micromanaging or day-to-day operations of the food pantry. It would be having, making sure that the committee and the board are on the same page with the food pantry director, the operations manager, and everyone else to say what's functioning, what's good. It would be a good way to empower the board to do community outreach further, reach out to friends of the affiliated not-for-profit and ensure, make sure that all of the requisite records, any sort of, agreements that the pantry has are all kind of put together, are all, up to snuff, so to speak, I think, and advise, it really be an advisory body of the township board, which then could take action as needed for especially like expenditures, other program expansions or decreases, anything that's needed based on that overall, the legislative aspect of it. Whereas,
Sorry, Zoom is not.
We need like a 30-second versions at this point, because we're in a crunch.
Okay,
Right.
so are we done with number 5? I just want to make sure everyone hears.
I thought we were done with it 45 minutes ago.
Okay, number 6.
No, we're good.
We're all
We're
covered number 11.
to 11 at this point. We've just kind of discussed everything.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just making sure 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all, and 11 are all
Taking
done.
unnecessary
Eleven
time.
is
We're done.
not
Let's go.
done.
Okay, so we're at 11 then.
If I could say a couple things here. Is that
Sure,
permission?
I'm just
Okay,
trying to make sure
First
we're,
off, these are all
finishing-
changes that would have been previously kind of discussed with the board before. Nothing's really new. It's just the implementation of it is now coming around to happening. What I think one of the things I'm a little bit afraid of is that changes are going to be made prior to the committee really giving their recommendation. And no, they're not supposed to be working on the day-to-day with the town, I'm sorry, with the food pantry, but they are going to give recommendations and they are going to kind of dig in a little bit further than maybe was before. So I think it's putting the food pantry and our township in a vulnerable position if you make changes now that are not really run through the committee, so that everyone's in line, because if they want to change something different, then it's not going to happen and our poor community is going to go back and forth. The other thing about the software, it may serve as information for the food pantry. I would use it that way, as learning who our people are. What I wanted to ask is, are you, Diane, since you, Supervisor Hewitt, since you're donating it, are you planning on trying to get repaid by a grant for it
no,
at all? Okay, because it's very clear that was not on the grant list, that the board had decided of kind of what they wanted. So I think her contribution to this could really serve as knowledge of what we want to do. I don't think it should be served as something that we're forced into for the future, because the board already said no to it. And that was all I had. I hope that helps, sorry.
okay, so is 11 discussion on additional food pantry items done?
Yes.
Any elected official comments?
The only comment I have is, I would just like to know if either one of you have had a conversation, with anybody at the garden, about how the harvest is gonna be handled, if you're gonna be changing the hours.
So
You know,
we'll-
we've been doing this for 7 years, and I know you haven't talked to me about it, and I know you haven't talked to the chair of the garden about it, so have you had a conversation with anybody else
No,
about?
I don't anticipate any changes with the garden.
So, but if the pantry is not open on days.
It doesn't matter, they're here serving the pantry. Just like if somebody was to bring donations, we have staff here that.
So there will be somebody here, because we are here
Yes,
3
We started at 8:00.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We started at 8:00.
Okay.
so
But again,
we'll
any
come back.
change should make sure you understand who all players are.
Right.
Of course,
Change management best
Yeah.
practices.
Of course, and
Players
then-
are.
of course, but there would be zero
I'm
change.
sorry,
You're
sorry.
right.
So we're trying to be
Yes,
better,
thank you.
getting our
Thank you.
communications out. We are trying to do that.
Okay,
But I
good.
would, I know at the end, at my last words is trustee guys, I know you brought up your points, but I would offer you to consider the flip side of it.
Which one?
Because the flip side of being, there may be a huge portion of people who are coming to us who are not from Lisle Township, because
Mhm.
it's glaring when we see it, when they see it right.
Of course.
But what if it's not?
Well, we'll find out.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's
We're gonna
we'll
find out.
thing, like I say, it goes both ways.
Yeah, but we're
You
gonna
know,
find
we
out.
could
and
find
that's what's
out
gonna be
and
great.
say, oh, we should have done this, or we
Mhm.
could find out and say, oh, I'm glad we did this.
I don't think we're in
you know.
disagreement. I think on Wednesday is
Mhm.
makes good sense. But I think it's important, which is what I was saying, best practice in change management is always understanding who the players are and what the impact is of any change you make on all of the players. And we haven't typically done that in the past. We didn't do it. Program. Didn't.
Mhm.
So let's learn from our mistakes in the past. Let's move forward. I just pushed my meeting out minutes because, I was not gonna be on time. So thank you guys so much for your time this morning. Anything, you don't have anything, trustee Robinson?
So I'm going through, actually, because I'm the chair of this meeting, trustee Geist. So trustee Geist, are you done with your elected official comments?
I was just speaking to Mr. Wolf.
So again, we're in the elected official comment side of
Okay,
this
so I
section.
will share with you more than that. I really want us to understand who our client is. I want us to understand what their actual needs are. Anytime you make a change, those are important steps. Right now, we just keep implementing. We implement, we hire, we implement. We don't stop and strategically plan what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that is what creates unnecessary strife between staff and board, between board. And I really think if we want to really hit the reset button and we want to move forward, and I would say that Attorney Seckler would want us to all be more self-aware in how we operate and stop operating in silos and really be communicating with each other. I didn't know there was a vaccine clinic, for example. So we need to do better. So any change, we want to keep improving and we making changes, but we are not getting the other stuff right first. And so it just creates all of this dysfunction. So any change we make, let's make sure that we're doing it the right way. Any change, I don't care what it is in this office. As a leader, understand who's impacted, who are the players, what are the pros and cons of those changes, let them have a voice and make sure that you're moving forward with a strategic decision. That's it.
Okay, then, trustee
Nothing from
Page,
me?
trustee Robinson.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is, again, impact on budget as we reforecast. So I don't know if there's any capital requirements for the food pantry that aren't encapsulated in the current budget plan.
Yes.
So is the food pantry director going to speak to those things in his presentation tomorrow?
Yes,
And then as we get into discussions around the budget, okay, presumably there'll be a food pantry committee meeting before we have our finance committee to reforecast the budget. So, okay, any change is, again, any impact on budget, let's make sure that gets incorporated as part of the discussion. Thank you.
and then from my perspective, again, these have been well thought out, well organized for 6-7 months that we've been discussing this at length. About the different changes, whether as part of staff changes, whether it was at length going through a variety of different partners that we're working with Northern Illinois, West Suburban, and what have you not, to make sure that we're able to modernize in the most efficient, beneficial way for the entire community, especially Lisle Township, to better understand our inventory and better serve the people of Lisle Township. So I'm extremely impressed with how the ideas that Gerald and Jordan have created have been rolled on. There will be a really vibrant presentation tomorrow depicting the changes and depicting the public announcements that will be forthwith. And any budgetary changes have been long understood, meaning that, for example, we could really use money for actually buying food. We have needed a truck, dock level height truck for years. Literally, it's been budgeted for 4 years. So those two things are things that we know needs to happen. I mean, the expansion of various items inside the food pantry, whether it's the freezers or what have you not, that we already know are on its last legs. So there's a lot of things that we've been, we have thoroughly, will thoroughly remind you of potentials. But as we're going forward, especially with staffing, knowing that really one of the biggest things that we need help with is because we don't have the right tools to be making these runs, it makes it much more labor intense. So part of this is understanding the trades that will eventually be made financially with buying the investment of a truck would help us make some of these runs a whole lot more efficient and would make some of our staffing needs less. Frankly, from the budgetary perspective. So understanding those needs are important. And giving the people that we've hired the ability to make the choices that and the changes that they know that we need is really important. I really highly suggest that any of the trustees who wish to learn more about the food pantry sign up to be a greeter. One of the things I learned a lot about was talking to the people when they come in and watching them sign up. I am pretty sure that most of those people were signing up with a address that was somewhere in Lisle Township. And I'm saying that after sitting for days, actually watching the people sign in. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
So I just want, as you ask for these capital things, is there any further discussion on potential grant money coming in? That factors into it as well.
I thought we can talk about it tomorrow.
Fine. Okay, thank you. That factors into the decisions
It
around
does.
investments. Thank
Of
you.
course. And if anybody has anything to share, happy to keep sharing about that. Okay, so then elected official comments. Is there anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, and then executive session, there's, just to be super clear, we know that there's going to be a need for executive session either tonight or right now. And Heather is been alerted of this or after the end of the next meeting. So again, when would you all
What is the
prefer
night?
No, she means tomorrow night.
Okay.
Full board meeting.
the board meeting?
Well, she said tonight.
But
Well,
she-
either right now or
Oh,
tomorrow
you
night.
just watched the whole meeting.
I know, she's like.
Sorry.
"There's meetings
Sorry,
tonight."
sorry.
There's no meetings
I
tonight.
heard tomorrow night, but I understand.
Yes, so
No,
tomorrow night,
Tonight.
Okay.
no, tomorrow night. So
No,
either,
Not-
okay, so not right now. So we're gonna have a longer meeting tomorrow night, just to be super
Oh,
clear.
yeah, we.
That's why we
we're
did
okay.
this today.
Yeah.
Okay, so then is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Geist and trustee Page, and then all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Do you need this room for the next 15 minutes?
I don't